Hello friends, today's art lesson is how to draw Lola Dutch. Now who is Lola Dutch? Lola is a book character that I have created. I'm an illustrator and a children's book author along with my husband, and we created a picture book series called Lola Dutch. Maybe some of you guys have read the books before. And not only is she curious and creative and full of energy and personality, but she's really fun to draw. So in today's art lesson, I'm going to show you how I draw Lola Dutch. Let's get started. This particular book, this is the first book of Lola Dutch, and I want to show you some of the pictures in here in case you are not familiar. Lola Dutch is a character in a book series that Kenneth, my husband, and I have created, and she is so fun to draw. Lola has some really fun characteristics that I want to teach you how to draw today. I have here a few sketches of drawings that I've done of Lola Dutch so you can get an idea of how I create here. Here is a very loose sketch of one of the illustrations in the second book, and you can see how my line work is really loose and I'm just plotting down some ideas. What I love about Lola is that her character, her body and her features are really loose. They're not exact and they're always changing, and you can see in some of these illustrations. Here's another sketch that I've done of Lola, and you can see how I have an underlying drawing and then an over drawing, and the final drawing is going to have all these elements of color and line, which I want to show you a little bit today. So in order to get started, you will need a piece of paper, and you can watch me as I draw, or you can follow along and get some ideas. All right, let's get started. So Lola has, whenever I'm doing a drawing, I like to block out the basic shapes. So I'm going to block out a circle for her head. Now her head is not a perfect circle, but giving a very light circle like this is going to act as a guide for me. It's going to help me to put the shapes in place. And then we have her torso. Now Lola's torso is a little bit long and skinny, and the reason why I decided to draw it like that is because I like to give a lot of bendy shape in character's torso. It helps me to get a lot of expression. And at the end of her torso right here, I have this waistband, and this waistband is going to be blocked in just like this. And then I'm going to put in her skirt. This skirt is always part of Lola. She always has this poofy kind of tutu-like skirt. And when I'm drawing her skirt, I'm very loose, and I don't think too much about where the lines are going to go. Just kind of plop them in. Maybe I'll throw in an extra one right there and an extra one right here. And this loose line is going to give Lola's skirt a lot of energy and a lot of fluidity as she's moving along. Now let's go ahead and block her legs in. From this skirt, we know her knees are just right about here. Her knees are not very defined, but I will draw them anyway. And you can see how I am not afraid to erase. I don't want her leg to be like this. I'm going to make her leg go at a diagonal like it is in the cover. And Lola, she's not a ballerina, but she does like to point her toes. I'm trying to decide how I want to get this leg here. So let's give her a little bit of a pointed toe right here, and then a leg just like this. Now this leg is going to be planted on the ground. The way that I do Lola's shoes is she has these little flat ballet flats, and when her feet are pointed, it can come to a point, but when they're flat, it's a nice flat shoe like this, and then her foot comes right at a curve to that base. And we're going to fill in some details later and make it darker. All right, we blocked out the legs. Now let's go ahead and block in the rest of the body. Lola is usually making some kind of exclamation. She's talkative, she's active, she's very, very curious and creative, and she usually has her arms out or in some kind of active pose. So I'm gonna have her arms like this, and I'm just gonna block in those lines like that so that we get a sense of where they're gonna go. I'm not gonna put them in. Let's put in her neck, and now we're gonna define this face a little bit more. Because I want her face to be at a 3/4 angle, I'm going to show you, you might wanna just watch for a second. I'm gonna put the top of her head here, and then because she has this short hair, I'm gonna block it in. It's almost like a helmet. I hate to say it. I hate to say it's like a helmet, but I'm gonna go across and down, and then I'm gonna give it some jagged lines. Don't be afraid to make it jagged. Now you can see we've got the face a little bit figured out. I'm going to show you how I draw her face. The side of her face comes out like this, and we have her cheekbone comes down, and then from this point I like to start on the other side and give her a chin and then come up. Do you see how we're starting to form that face? All right, and in the other drawings you've seen, I like to give her a midpoint and an eye point, which I'm going to block in really lightly. You might not even be able to see that. And we're going to give her her eyes. And Lola has a fun little pointed nose for no other reason than just everything about her is like an exclamation point. And so we get these exclamation point in a nose. I'll show you where else she has some little exclamation points. You guys might, for those of you who know Lola Dutch, you know that she always has a red bow. And we're going to block that red bow in just like this. Now once again, I'm just laying down the shapes. I'm not worrying too much about the details just yet, but we will in a second. I'm just blocking in the shapes. All right, now let's finish out those arms. Here's her neck. Now Lola has an outfit she just always wears, because I'm sure there are many of you out there that like to wear the same thing, and that is just like Lola. Here's one arm, here's the other arm. We're going to block in that torso and that waistband. Now here we've got her hands, and I like to draw really loose circles for the palm of the hand. We're going to have her hands be facing out. And her fingers extended like this. You can follow along as I draw. You can have her holding something. If you've read the Lola Dutch books, you know that Lola loves to read. And often I have her holding books or holding paintbrushes or some kind of creative activity. Okay, so now that we have most of these parts blocked in, I'm going to start adding color. Now we're going to start with the color red. Lola has this red shirt, and I'm using a colored pencil here. When I paint her in the book, I actually use red paint, and the kind of paint is called gouache. I use red gouache, but I'm going to use a colored pencil for today because it's going to help me block it in, and I'm not making Lola exactly like I make her in the book, because that process is actually a combination of digital and hand-painted elements. So it's not going to look exactly like you might see Lola, but it's going to get really close. So if you have paint, or if you have marker, or crayon, or colored pencil, you can fill in this red shirt of Lola's, just like that. Now while I have this red colored pencil, I'm going to go ahead and fill in the red lines of Lola's outfit. So you may notice that her bow is usually pretty messy, like this. And then her waistband has these red lines, just like this. And then you see these lines that I've done for her skirt. I would normally erase that, but so that you can see it, I'm going to go ahead and draw in those lines. I'm going to go over this just a little bit so that you can see it a little bit better. So you see how messy and squiggly that is, and that's because Lola is messy and squiggly herself. So I've got this red in. I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to block in her hair. Her hair has the same kind of a squiggle as her skirt does. So to start with her bangs, I'm going to give her bangs this kind of squiggle, just like this. And then her bob is going to have these same kind of squiggles. You're going to follow those lines that you've already blocked in, so you don't have to be too nervous about it. We're just going to block those lines in, and I'm making mine a little darker in a couple places, like that. And I in the books normally paint her hair. But like I said, because I don't have all of my materials with me today, and because I want to keep this really simple, I'm going to color in lightly. Now I pressed really hard with my colored pencil for the lines, but for the hair, I am going to fill it in really lightly, just like this, to give a sense of the hair. And with this brown colored pencil, I'm going to go ahead and finish marking in the face. When I do it in real life, I use this brown colored pencil, and if I were doing this for real, I would erase those lines, but for today's lesson, I'm going to go ahead and just draw right over those lines so that I make sure they go right where they need to be. She's got her cute little nose, which my colored pencil is not as sharp as it should be. Gotta sharpen that a little bit. And then let's block in the lines for her legs. And I'm really loose when I draw Lola. I'm really careful not to get too detailed. Now what I'm going to do for this next part, these colored pencils are wanting to smudge really easy. I'm going to go ahead and now erase some of those pencil marks that I have originally made, being careful not to erase too much of the drawing. I'm going to brush those out of the way without brushing the art too much. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to show you how I paint in her skirt. So Lola has a really fun, loose watercolor style skirt. And what I'm doing here is I'm just mixing a teeny little bit of red watercolor to make the skirt. And now you can see that I've gone ahead and I finished the skirt, and I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of her features. So to finish out Lola, I'm going to finish the rest in black. And the parts that of her that are black are this black collar right here. And in fact, the collar is black all the way through there. She's also got these big black eyes. And then for her shoes, I like to start out by drawing the heel. There's usually a little bit of a curve up to her foot. And then we have this pointed part right here. And you'll notice that I'm really just kind of scribbling. I'm being not too precious. Now finally, because we've got to get that smile in, I'm going to go over my pencil line that I've drawn, this red colored pencil. And last but not least, I will finish out her bow. Her bow is a combination of colored pencil and watercolor, just like that. Lola has some Lola and her friends always have rosy cheeks. So with my pink colored pencil, I'm gonna put in some rosy cheeks. Very, very, very lightly. And there we have Lola Dutch.